Hi there, folks. This is Tony for the Minute to Midnight Show, and I'm coming to you from New Zealand. And with me today, I have our frequent guest on the show, which is Leo Hohmann, and we always have a pretty interesting discussion. So I'm looking forward to today's show again, Leo. So welcome back.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Tony.
It's always good, and there's always lots to talk about. And we were even talking before we started the recording on things, and we could have gone for hours. So we better get into it. Where do you want to start?
Well, it just looks like, Ukraine, Russia is heading towards some sort of climax. And I'm hoping that climax isn't World War III. But I've yet to see a single maneuver by any world leader, including Donald Trump, that will take us in any other path or any other direction other than World War III. And so I've been devoting a good amount of time to writing about that. I've also been writing a lot about the advancement of the biometric digital surveillance state that is quickly developing under Donald Trump. It's almost hard to keep up, Tony, with all of the news on that front. All of the contracts that have been let out to companies like Palantir and other companies, not just, everyone talks about Palantir. That's been kind of a hot topic in the conservative media the last couple of months. But there's like dozens of other companies that do similar things. Gathering data, analyzing data, processing data, storing the data for later use by governments against the people. So these are two of the areas I've been writing a lot about. I guess you would call it the run up to the unimpeded run up towards World War III, which most people have tuned out. Okay, at least in America. I can't speak for other countries. This Ukraine-Russia thing has been going on for so long now that people just tune it out. If they hear Russia or Ukraine, they don't even pay attention, most of them. Obviously, there's a segment of the population that is different, and that's the segment that I cater to, I guess. But 90% or more of even conservative Americans, forget about the liberals. They're not going to read anything that I write. But I would say 90% of conservatives don't want to read anything I write, because it's about these two things, both of which scare the bejesus out of them. Okay, World War III and the digital biometric slave state. Okay, these are not comfortable topics, but they are the two most important things going on right now in the world. And we can't run around, with our eyes closed. We're going to be completely taken aback and taken by surprise when the big one gets triggered, the big war, the actual, what I would call, we're already in World War III. Most people don't know it, but we're like this far away from triggering what I call full on World War III, where, we literally will have missiles coming into America or have to worry about missiles coming into America at any point. We're really close to that. And then the digital biometric slave state involves, digital IDs, data gathering, all the data centers being constructed all over America, sucking up all the electric. It's going to affect people in that way, if nothing else. And there's going to be many, many, many effects. But one of the most early effects and most direct effects will be your electricity rates are going to go up. Water rates are going to go up, because these things require buku levels of electric power and water to cool the servers down in these humongous data collecting centers that they're building. And Donald Trump is all for this. He's allocated $500 billion. He's trying to raise to fund it. He says it's going to be raised from predominantly private sources. He calls it Project Stargate, which is very suspect in itself. Why does he keep coming up with these new age terms like, we're entering a new golden age of America, and we're launching Project Stargate. So yeah, these are not things people typically want to, invest a lot of time in learning about, because if you find out about it, okay, now you need to do something, right? And that's too uncomfortable for people. They would rather just float through life, take it as it comes, one day at a time, not plan for the future. And it's going to come back to bite them. I really believe that. A lot of Christians too, which is sad. They just want to focus on the positive, and I get it. I don't like dwelling on negative things either, and we do need balance. But I'm not seeing a lot of balance out there right now in a lot of Christianity. They're focused totally on the rapture and getting out of here. Okay, which I hope to God that happens. But I think we're going to go through a lot of stuff before it does, and there's no sense in closing your eyes to it. You should get prepared mentally, physically, and spiritually for tough times to come.
I agree. One thing I'm seeing is, and I think it's a Hegelian dialectic, and it's very
Yes.
clever, is like they will throw you something that looks like a good thing, and then people will latch onto that and kind of ignore those big ones behind you that you're talking about, they don't want to know about. And then if you mention, this is Trump's taking you quickly down the road towards this state of digital surveillance and everything, Big Brother. And they'll go, oh, well, he's just being misled. He's well-meaning, but he's being misled by his advisors. He just doesn't understand. And it's like, the guy's the president. And you're telling me that he's just blindly going along and thinking he's getting great advice and he doesn't understand where this is going? And then he's not that intelligent if that were the case. Because if you and I can see it, you can't tell me that Trump doesn't realize where this is going as well. So I'm like,
well, that was just like Project Warp Speed.
Yeah.
We were told that he was just led down that road naively. All these years later, he's still not been held accountable for it. So he thinks he can get away with these things. It's a technocratic society is what it is. Okay. The vaccine program, mass vaccination, mRNA with mRNA technology was part of it.
Yeah.
And the digital currency is part of it. He deceptively said that he would never approve of a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, but then he turned around and gave us the stable coin, which is the closest thing to a digital, central bank digital currency you're going to find that you can technically get away with saying is not one. It's issued by major banks. It's going to be issued by major banks, and the banks are regulated by the Federal Reserve, which is our central bank. So while it's technically not a CBDC, it will perform and function just like a CBDC when it matters. And so we're heading towards a situation where the U.S. dollar, the fiat currency that we know as the paper dollar, is going to crash and burn. I don't know if it's going to happen suddenly. We wake up one morning and we find out our dollars are worthless, or if it will just be this slow degradation that we've seen throughout the year of 2025 so far. But one way or another, people are going to find less value in the fiat currency, and this stable coin is going to be positioned as a replacement for it. Now, for a while, I think it will function side by side with the US dollar. But as that dollar, the paper dollar, loses value, the stable coin will gradually become more valuable. And at some point, people are going to say, well, why do we even need these dollars? And I don't know if that will, be a year or two down the road or 10 years down the road. But I think that's the goal. The same thing with the biometrics. I just did an article at my Substack a few days ago about a big contract that the FBI signed with a company called Leidos. I believe it's spelled Leidos. You can find it at my Substack, leohohmann.substack.com. And I've got all the details of this contract in there, $127 million a year. for this private company to gather up biometric identifiers, okay, unique identification elements from human beings, whether that be a fingerprint, an eye scan, a retina scan, palm scan, you name it, DNA. They are running the largest data bank in the world for the FBI that's collecting all of this stuff, and they say it's just to keep us safe. They keep saying it's to keep us safe. It's just going to apply to criminals and illegal aliens, but that's just a facade. That is a smokescreen. When Donald Trump was running in 2016 for his first term, he said in the wide open that he wants a proper tracking system, quote unquote. That's his words, not mine. A biometric tracking system to keep track of everybody coming into the United States, okay, whether legally or illegally. Now, here's the catch. Most people hear that and they say, oh, that's just Donald Trump trying to get a handle on illegal immigration. That's only half the story, okay? And this is how the media, including a lot of conservative media, deceives the public. It's not that what they're reporting is inaccurate. It's that it's not the full story. They're only giving you what they want you to know.
Yeah.
The other half of it is the United States of America is pressuring other countries through Donald Trump's tariff machinations. You know how he's basically threatening every country in the world with higher tariffs if they don't do this, that, or the other that he wants. Well, one of the things it's out there now that the Trump administration is pressuring countries to do is to also have their proper biometric human tracking systems in place. And so now we've got a tracking system for everybody coming into the United States, and we're pressuring other countries to have tracking systems for everybody leaving the United States to go to their countries. So what does that tell you? We end up with a global biometric tracking system tied to what will eventually be a digital ID. You know, Trump is also the first president to fully enforce the Real ID Act of 2005, which requires a fingerprint or some other biometric on your ID. And so it's just a matter of time before we end up at what? The beast system talked about in the Bible. We're marching headlong into it, just like we're marching towards World War III. And this is where we're at. Most people are oblivious to it. They don't want to be educated about it. When you start trying to talk to them about it, you see their eyes glaze over and they change the subject. But I'm just not going to play that game. You either want to get informed or you don't. But don't tell me, you know, what should I do? Oh my gosh, I'm in a panic once it all comes down.
Yes, I agree. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking about Robert Kennedy Jr. and his wearables. You know, wants everyone to have a wearable.
Yes.
And then at the same time, so that's a really scary thing. You know, he's come out and said that. And then at the same time, not the same time, a little later, he comes out and says we're going to take mercury out of vaccines and dental fillings and whatever. So people go, oh, see, look, he's a good guy. He's really on our side, you know. And it's the
and I've tried to be balanced. I've tried to report some of the good things he's doing and some of the bad. I did do an article on the wearables about a week ago, and this company called the Bee, they make a bracelet, a wristband, that tracks everything going on in your sphere, you know, everything you say to friends and family, even talking to yourself. It's monitoring, collecting, and storing this data to help you plan I'm not sure why they would need to hear you and blog your, you know, what you're saying to yourself. But this is the type of thing that Kennedy says we should all be participating in, or wants us to all be participating in by, I think he said 2030, was it?
I can't remember, probably, yeah.
Yeah. And it fits right in with the biometric tracking, right? They even want to track what's going on in your body with all of the medical and health wearables that are out there now. How many steps did you take? What is your heart rate? What is your glucose level?
Yeah.
How much sleep did you get last night, or for the week, or for the month? And are you sleep deprived? How many drinks did you take? How many cigarettes did you buy or smoke? And buy with the digital, when the digital currency comes in, they'll know everything you bought as well as, everything that's you're consuming. And so it really does end up at what they call total information awareness. That is the goal of the globalists. Now, they do want to depopulate the world because they recognize that total information awareness on 8 billion people on the planet is a tall order, even with AI. To get an AI powerful enough to track just the movement and the spending habits, forget about eating and everything else that they want to track, what we consume. Let's just say, just to track the movement and the spending habits of 8 billion people, they would need an AI so powerful that they know there is not enough, even close enough to enough electric power generation capacity to fuel and power that strong of an AI. And so they need to depopulate the world. They want to get it down to about 4 or 5 billion. They're on the right trajectory. We see birth rates just imploding, okay? It came out last week that the United States of America, in 2024, was it, I think? The latest figures just came out, and we had a 1.59 birth rate, a 1.59 children per woman is the average right now. That it's never been that low, and it hasn't been at 2.1 children per woman for at least a decade. That's what we need just to maintain our current population. So the birth rates are imploding, not just in America, but worldwide, okay? Especially in the Western industrialized countries, but even in the third world, we're starting now to see birth rates falling. And I would argue that that's due to some factors that we're not supposed to talk about, right? Injecting children with 75 doses of vaccines between birth and age 17. You think maybe that could be a factor? When they're putting things like mercury and animal DNA and all of these bizarre ingredients into the vaccines. Absolutely, that's messing with people's fertility. And so, and that's not the only factor. There's other things going on. The ultra processed food, the spraying in the air, you name it, it is coming at us from all angles. And while you may not think it's affecting you, it may be affecting your children or your grandchildren, right?
Yeah.
Depopulation is part of the plan, because even with AI, they know they can't get the level of control that they're looking for as long as we have 7 or 8 billion people on the planet.
And World War III would be another way of dealing
World War III checks all the boxes right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and it seems to be, like you say, people don't want to hear it, but it does look closer now than at any other stage.
Well, and it's not just me, predicting it. Martin Armstrong, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
He's a writer, economist, and analyst who runs computer models.
Socrates.
And his computer model for gauging the likelihood of World War III is now at 100%. He says it's 100% that we're going to World War III.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that it said that. Yeah. I think his computer model is called Socrates isn't it?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, yep. And we have got just so many factors and war of words between Trump and Medvedev, for example. It's just like I guess Trump, he looks like this man that's, like my way or the highway. You all do it my way. Well, there is no other way, and
It's always everything that he puts out there that he wants. If you pay attention, it's always backed up by a threat.
Yep.
Whether it's domestic policy and
Yeah.
some senator isn't voting the way he wants on a key piece of legislation, or whether it's a foreign policy and he's wanting some foreign leader to agree to a peace deal that he concocted out of thin air with no historical knowledge of the situation whatsoever. No matter what it is, there's always a threat. There's a threat against that senator who won't, he's going to primary him in the next election. Or there's a threat against that foreign leader. He's going to hit him with not just sanctions, but double sanctions and secondary sanctions. He's going to cripple that country. He's going to bomb that country in the case of Iran if they don't agree to his deal that he wants. I have never seen a leader on the international stage with this much kahunas to think that he can dictate policy to every other country. And I know that has gone on in the past with America being, the strongest country in the world and having a sort of pseudo empire. But Trump is just like, doesn't even try to hide it. Like most of these presidents of the past would probably issue these threats in private, right?
Yeah.
But he puts them on social media and threatens the other country's leaders in public.
Yeah.
I mean, he sent 2 nuclear-powered submarines to the coast of Russia this week because he didn't like a post on social media that a Russian government official made.
Yeah.
Who does that? Okay.
Yeah.
Who says, "Oh my gosh, I didn't like what this." It's not even Putin. It was
Medvedev.
It was
Medvedev.
Dmitry Medvedev, who is a former president of Russia, made a comment on social media that Trump didn't like, and Trump responds by sending 2 nuclear subs to Russia's coast. I'm sorry, folks, but that's unhinged.
Yes. Like I'm looking at it, it's classic. I hate to say it, but it's kind of like if you were an impending dictator, isn't this kind of the way you would do things? Like to gradually take a country into a dictatorship?
You could make that argument. You could also see it as, how do I say this? Trump has positioned himself, his entire political candidacy, his entire platform, his entire image on the idea that he is trying to rein in this deep state.
Yeah.
He calls it the swamp, right? He was going to drain the swamp. But what if that was one big psyop and he's actually under the employ of the deep state?
Yeah.
Or swamp, whatever you want to call it. I mean, to me, I don't even like that term deep state anymore because by saying that there's a deep state running the show behind the scenes in America, that makes it sound like the guys in Washington are good guys, that there's just these secret guys in the background who are doing all the bad stuff, right? And while I don't doubt that there's powerful influencers behind the scenes, there always has been. I don't buy it that the majority of politicians who are up there are, all well-meaning, well-intentioned, good guys. They just, they're pitted against this deep state. To me, there's maybe a few up there who don't like the so-called deep state, people like Rand Paul or Thomas Massey, but they're so few and they're such outliers and they have no power. Whatever they say is always from the outside looking in at the establishment. So how can we say there's a deep state? It's just the state. Okay. You got the state and then you got a few outliers who actually feel like they're up there to defend the Constitution of the Republic of the United States of America. but they're like 1% or less of the Congress, the House and the Senate, and the bureaucracy, and the White House, and all of them. So, why and how else, if this isn't the case, and if Trump really is this anti-establishment political leader that he plays himself up to be, then why does he enthusiastically endorse people like Lindsey Graham? Okay, that would make no sense if he truly was what he says and he's anti-establishment and anti-globalist, because Lindsey Graham is the quintessential establishment man and globalist neocon warmonger. So you can't have it both ways,
And I mean, he's dead now, but Henry Kissinger, I mean, Trump, I had clips, more than one, of Trump calling him his friend. Like, been great friends with Henry Kissinger for years. And Henry Kissinger was Mr. Globalist, and, and met with Trump in the first administration. Straight away, one of the first people Trump met with was Henry Kissinger. And people like that. And then when you mention the deep state, most people go, oh, they equate the deep state now with the left, with the Democrats, and a few Republicans that are rhinos. But I don't think that's what it's become, a boogeyman.
No, it's the other way around. There's a few good guys and all the rest are rhinos, especially when it comes to foreign policy and war making. Lindsey Graham gets kind of a bad rap, not that he deserves anything, but he is really not outside the mainstream he's just the biggest mouth, for war. But the majority of Republican senators and Democrats vote the same as Lindsey Graham when it comes to foreign policy issues. Okay. People like John Cornyn, people like John Kennedy, the funny one who everyone seems to like. He's a neocon. He supports every war. Who's some more of them? Tom Cotton. Okay. I mean, these guys vote in lockstep with Lindsey Graham. They never met a foreign war they didn't want to fund or didn't want to get involved with. They are very fond of, always talking about foreign enemies and not doing what is necessary here at home to take care of our own business. They like to keep the focus on Russia, on China. That way, nobody's paying attention to the bad, horrible job they're doing of governing America, wasting all of our tax dollars on stupid things, running up debt, 37 trillion worth now. They know it's so much it'll never even be able to be paid off, and that's why they got their stable coin, because they know that the debt parade, the debt party is going to come to an end. The gig is going to be up pretty soon. And they're going to need some all-new economy based on a new digital currency. That's what's in the cards, folks, because they don't have the integrity to do what is necessary to save this republic under the free system that we have traditionally had in this country. They don't have any respect for even the idea of freedom and letting American people live free. It's all about tightening the controls. And you mentioned Hegelian dialectic. That is an important point. And you could do a whole show just on that. But just think of what we've endured for the last 5 years. 4 years of Biden, and now, 6 or 7 months of Trump. Biden created certain problems and made other problems worse that we already had, setting the stage for Trump to come in with the solution to these problems, right?
He
opened the borders. He got us involved up to here with Ukraine in a border war with Russia that had no bearing on American national security. And now it's up to Trump to fix these problems. So he's going to fix the immigration problem by what? building a wall and installing a proper biometric digital tracking system. He's going to solve the, he said he would solve the Russia-Ukraine war that Biden got us into on day one of his presidency. That was a joke, and it's proved a lot more difficult for him to get a handle on. But he seems to be going in the same direction of just now unable to convince Putin to end the war. He's just going to continue it and continue the Biden policy of funding Ukraine until what? I've been saying this since the beginning. It's a proxy war. It's not a war to preserve Ukraine's democracy, which doesn't exist. It is a proxy war where NATO is using Ukraine to get to deal a strategic defeat, as they say. This is their words, the globalists. They want to deal a strategic defeat to Russia, and they're using Ukraine to do it. Now, it's been a lot more difficult, I think, than they thought, and it is going to lead to, and this is where World War III comes in, NATO putting troops into Ukraine. I have sources I trust say that even now they are planning up to 250,000 NATO troops to be inserted into Ukraine when the time is ripe, and that I don't know if it's that far away, because Ukraine is losing territory every day in that war. 250,000 peacekeeping troops. What they're going to do is it's going to be like the Bosnian War in the 1990s. They put Western troops in there and used them offensively against Serbia, and called them peacekeepers. And they were just there to provide humanitarian aid. That's what they're going to do here in Ukraine. They're going to say that Russia is, so brutal and they've taken over Ukraine. We need to put Western humanitarian troops in there just to help these poor Ukrainians, but they're going in there to kill Russians. Okay, that's what happened in the 1990s. It's going to happen again in Ukraine, but the difference is this is not Serbia we're dealing with here. This is Russia. This is the world's largest possessor of nuclear weapons, and they also have hypersonic missiles that we have no defense against at this time. And so that's why it's going to World War III, because our leaders are so insane that they think they can deal with nuclear-armed Russia in the same way they dealt with, Saddam Hussein in Iraq, Gaddafi in Libya, Assad in Syria, Milosevic in Serbia. This is not those countries, okay? And so it's not going to end well for either side. If we go to World War III, I don't think there's any winners.
Well, there's been quite a bit of talk lately about Russia's dead hand system, which if the leadership of Russia's taken out in any way, shape or form, then there's an automated system that would basically destroy everyone.
Called death hand.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's like that should be a bit of a reality check to people, because you just imagine if there's some sort of other breakdown, a system breakdown, even if Russia's, Moscow's still intact, but it's cut off communications wise or something like that, something else could trigger that system to go into operation. And once it's operating, that's it. There's no stopping it. It would obliterate every city in the world pretty much, or every city in the Western world. And, there wouldn't be anything after that. So. Right.
And I mean, you've got not only provocations from Trump, sending nuclear submarines to Russia, but you've got Germany also taking a more aggressive stand. I did an article on this last week. They put in a formal request for Tomahawk missiles with an updated launching system that could get these Tomahawk cruise missiles from Berlin to Moscow in 10 minutes. If the U.S. does that, they're even crazier than I thought, okay? Because Putin is not going to sit still for having a missile system within 10 minutes of Moscow.
Yeah.
he's going to do something equally provocative in response. And it's just, we're on this escalatory ladder that nobody seems to know how to get off of or really want to get off
Well,
of.
that's it. Do they want to get off it?
Right.
That's the question.
I think if they wanted to get off of it, they could.
Yeah, it is. It's just like this insane march towards a war that nobody can win. That humanity
Correct.
can't win, It just seems nuts.
Well, that's my conclusion as well. While one of these sides' leaders may claim victory, it's going to be a big millions of people on both sides are going to have their lives upended if we continue down this path that we're on.
Well, millions of people will die, and so there'll be less population, and there can be no
either
real
die
winner.
or have their lives forever changed.
Yeah, and so there's no winner in a situation like that, and it's
None
all for
whatsoever.
what? So
none whatsoever, and that's why it's totally inexplicable and reckless and just insane what the West is doing right now in provoking Russia over this issue of Ukraine, when Putin has warned for 20 years that Ukraine was a red line, that all he wants is the country. He didn't want to take it over. He may take it over now, but what he wanted was the country to be neutral, demilitarized, and a guarantee that it wouldn't join NATO.
Yeah.
And he was happy. And and they would continue on as an independent country, Ukraine, and they can have whatever kind of government they want. But no, the West would not concede to Putin that one point, that those 2 points, that they were not to militarize that country, and they were not to invite it into NATO. And so now we're left with going to World War III over this. It is not worth it, not in the least. If Putin started invading Poland and Germany and Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, and reassembling the old Soviet empire, maybe I could understand it. But Ukraine is not a member of NATO. Every other country on Russia's western border has joined NATO. There's this one country that he said, I just can't allow it. I can't. That would be like Mexico joining the Soviet bloc, back in the day. Russia has been invaded 3 or 4 times from the West through this area of Ukraine. They know from experience. People say they're paranoid. Maybe they are. But if the United States had been invaded 3 or 4 times through Mexico, do you think we might be a little paranoid if the Soviets or the Chinese started colonizing Mexico? We're paranoid as it is, and we've never been invaded by a foreign power through Mexico. But I guarantee you, if the Russians or the Chinese started, sending cruise missiles and other sophisticated weaponry and putting it in Mexico and pointing it at our cities in America, I think we might be a little upset about that.
Yeah.
But somehow we can't understand why Putin is upset. Lindsey Graham is just, like I said, he's not the only one. By far, he is the most outspoken, the most boisterous, the most unlikable of all the neocons. But unfortunately, there are plenty of others who vote and support the same type of policies.
True.
And these are the ones apparently who've gotten into Trump's head and now have him on their side. Lindsey Graham is his good golfing buddy. Maybe he's had one too many holes of golf with this neocon, and now he's thinking exactly like him. I don't know what's changed Trump, but this is not the same Trump from his first term, especially not in the area of foreign policy.
Yeah, well, it could be.
This is a man I voted for because with the exception of COVID and how he handled that, I thought he did a pretty decent job in his first term. So, I don't want your audience to think I'm a never Trumper. I know I've spent, the last 30, 40 minutes, on Trump. But I'm a person who was a supporter of his. But I see the changes that have been happening And I think it's healthy for other Americans to wake up and see things for what they are and where they're heading, not see them as how you would like them to be.
Yeah, I've never trusted Trump, even in the first time round, 2016, before he was even elected. I thought he was a puppet, designed to do pretty much the sorts of things that's happening now. But I guess we better look to be closing up. But this could be a conversation that sends people into fear, which is not really what we want to do. So what do we want to do? What do we want people to take away from this?
We need to have our spiritual eyes opened. We need to pray for discernment because there's a lot of deception going on. Jesus talked about that in Matthew 24. He said one of the markers of the last days would be this intense form of deception, unlike any other in human history. And, I think we like to take things at face value. If our president or somebody else we like or want to like and trust tells us something, we take it at face value. If he builds a wall and says it's to keep the illegals out, we think, okay, it's going to keep the illegals out. Well, maybe it's going to keep other people in. If he says we want a certain new type of high-tech ID system because we need to keep track of all the illegals and make sure nobody's voting illegally, right? Voter ID.
Yeah.
We take that at face value when the facts show that it's inching us towards a biometric global digital ID system, which lines up with the end times beast system. So we need to pray for discernment that we see things for what they are biblically and not what we are told they are by our favorite politician, whether it be someone on the right, the Republican Party, or the left in the Democrat Party. It never is what they say it is. And so if we're not getting our discernment from the Holy Spirit of God, then we're going to be deceived. Indeed.
I look back to 1991 and George Bush Sr. and his several speeches on the New World Order and how, he was saying we need to be in a New World Order. And that was in 1991. And then progressively over the years, I think every single president has, whether they've been Democrat or Republican, they've enacted things that are leading us towards that. They've changed the name. They maybe don't want to call it a New World Order anymore, but basically that's what it is, whether they're left or right. And it's the same in other countries as well. It's not just America. So I think the march has always been towards where it is now. And people just need to realize that their answer is not in politics. It's not in a politician. The answer's in Jesus Christ ultimately.
Amen.
And
if your focus is not on him, you will be deceived.
Yeah. All right. So as we wrap up, Leo, where can people find your articles?
Posting 3 or 4 times a week at my Substack. You can find that by punching in leohohmann.substack.com. Hohmann is spelled with 2 N's, Hohmann. So leohohmann.substack.com. Or also more infrequently at my other website, leohohmann.com. And I'm also on Telegram. I have a public channel on Telegram. Just search Leo Hohmann author / journalist and you'll find me on there. And I'm also on X. But you don't really need to follow me on X if you're following me on Substack, because I just repost. I don't do a lot of posting on X other than to repost my articles, my Substack articles and whatnot. But Telegram, I do post some other stuff that you're not going to get if you just follow me on Substack.
Okay. All right. Well, sounds good. So thank you again for being on the show with me today, Leo. It's been a fascinating discussion and
my pleasure.
sobering.
It's always a great experience being on your show. And I just really like the work you do, Tony. You're a straight shooter, and we need more of those. We need more of those right now.
And same, I always read everything that you post on your Substack as well. So they're always good food for thought. And even, sometimes I'll use stuff from your Substack and articles and things, even in other shows that aren't your show with me, but, I'll quote from them. So I really appreciate what you're doing as well.
Thank you so much. God bless.
And bless you too. Folks, at A Minute to Midnight, we don't do any advertising. We don't do YouTube clicks. Don't get any money from YouTube. Don't sell anything. Have no products to sell. It's run 100% by donations, and there are a few people, a handful that donate regularly and a few that donate occasionally. And all donations are hugely appreciated to help me keep going. And if anyone else is able to donate, if you have the means, then that would be appreciated as well. It would just help so much. So you can donate if you want to at aminutetomidnight.com. And please make sure you're subscribed to us at aminutetomidnight.com as well. We do post articles on there which you won't find on YouTube or anywhere, as well as our videos, but they're all uploaded at aminutetomidnight.com. The music used I've written, played and recorded as well, and there is some free music of mine on our website too. God bless, and God willing, we'll be back with another episode in a few days' time.